Hey, how's it going? Catch up time. I'm going to look at what I read in October 2025. This one shouldn't be too long because there are only 4 books and one of them I've already covered, but I might go into it a bit more. We shall see. So the first one I've got that I finished is this one, a very short book called A Short History of Russia by Mark Galeotti. How to understand the world's most complex nation. Now, this is an incredible book. How do you cover centuries of history in under 200 pages like this? So, I know of Mark Galeotti from some of his political commentary. I heard him on podcasts, etc. around about the time that the Russian invasion was happening. I know it's still happening, but when it kicked off. He's a man that knows the region extremely well, and there's a tangential connection because my wife went to Kiel University, where Mark Galeotti was, perhaps still is, a lecturer / professor. So she knew him to see. So, yeah, I just dropped that in there, I don't know why. So he starts with the Kievan Rus and the Rurikids, the origins of Russia, which I did know a little bit about from when I was at uni, having studied in first year a brief summary of Russian history, where we read the book by Raya Sanovsky. I think it's just called A Russian History. But yeah, we didn't go deep and none of it really stuck apart from the Kievan Rus. I remember the name, so that the Kiev is basically the kind of Genesis block of the Russian Empire, if you will. I suppose you could put it like that. He covers it going through swathes of history in very short chapters, but he does it in a very engaging way. And I just thought it was incredible. I mean, my knowledge of Soviet Russia and beyond is reasonable, but the rest of it I wasn't that familiar with, so it gave me some context. And at the end of each chapter, he gives a reading list, which is very helpful indeed. And of course, it inflated my TBR. So thanks for that, Professor Galeotti. It was quite encouraging to see that some of the books he mentioned I have read, such as Catherine the Great and Potemkin, and A People's Tragedy by Orlando Figes. Montefiore wrote Catherine the Great and Potemkin. So yeah, definitely recommend this. If you want a brief history of Russia, this is a fantastic place to start. And as I said, it gives you places to go after that if you're interested in any of the chapters in particular. So excellent book, highly recommended, and a pure impulse buy for me. And an impulse read, wasn't on my TBR. So there we go. The next one, I didn't bring a copy over because I've talked about it at length, and that's The White Guard by Mikhail Bulgakov, which, as I say, I've talked about because I did a read along on my Substack channel where we read it together over October, and I wrote essays on it and recorded the odd video, put podcasts out, and it was a lot of fun, and I feel that it's probably the biggest achievement of my year, actually. The fact that I set out to do it in October, and I did do it in October. Not only that, I read the book in September as well. So it's interesting, this book that sat on my shelf for over 30 years unread is now a book that I've read twice in 2 months and studied deeply. So there's plenty of stuff I've written about that. You can go and see my thoughts there on Substack or in the other videos and podcasts I've recorded. Suffice it to say, I really enjoyed it. And I do plan on doing a similar kind of thing with The Master and Margarita in January. So if that's something of interest to you, stay tuned. Or join my Substack and you'll be notified when that's going out. So there we go, The White Guard by Mikhail Bulgakov. Staying in the theme of Russian literature, Gogol. This is another mood read. I am a member of the great British Great Britain-Russia Society, which I joined on the back of an email in which it was recommended to me by Roger Cockrell, who translated The White Guard, and who came onto the White Guard podcast that I did for subscribers when we got together and had a video call. I was beside myself with pleasure at getting to meet online Roger Cockrell, a man whose translations I've enjoyed so much, both White Guard and Crime and Punishment. So Roger had mentioned to me the Great Britain-Russia Society, as he has given lectures there in the past, and through joining that you get access to lectures, one of which was recently on Gogol. Now, I studied Gogol at uni back in my junior honours year, in fact even in first year when we read The Overcoat, Chignel. I did a full module where I studied him, and I guess he's one of my favourite authors in Russian literature. I hadn't read him since, which I find interesting, and this book was on my shelf, and I have a feeling that it wasn't mine. I have a feeling that it belongs to my wife, because she studied Russian at uni as well, but for her it was a third subject, whereas for me it was my primary subject. So yeah, after having been to this talk, I did read The Overcoat again, because that was recommended before the talk, and it just reminded me of how much I enjoy Gogol's writing. So this one's translated by Ronald Wilkes, and it's got multiple stories in it. The Diary of a Madman being the first one. We've got The Nose, The Overcoat, How Ivan Ivanovich Quarrelled with Ivan Nikiforovich, and Ivan Fyodorovich Shponka and his aunt. So of those, The Nose and The Overcoat, for me, were the most well-known. Diary of a Madman, I believe, is well-known, but I hadn't read it, which I find strange. And the other two, no, I hadn't read the other two either. So, yeah, it's fascinating. The Overcoat's quite a well-known one. It's about a civil servant who is down on his luck. He's basically invisible in the civil service. He wears a threadbare overcoat that's basically just hanging together by threads, and he decides that he needs a new one, so he saves up. He endures great hardship, hunger and want in order to save up to buy this new overcoat, which he has tailor-made for him, and gets. It takes months, but he gets there. And as soon as he gets a new overcoat, he starts to be celebrated and noticed by his colleagues. In fact, they even throw a party for him to celebrate this new overcoat. However, on the way home from said party, he gets robbed and he has his overcoat stolen, and he goes back to who he was before, but worse, because he's experienced the joy of life through having a good overcoat. So he goes back and he ends up falling ill and dying of grief, I suppose, from the lack of recognition for going back to being anonymous and invisible again. Can't he handle it, and he dies, but then he comes back as a ghost to haunt Petersburg. This chilling story. So that's Chignel, which was the first Gogol story I ever read, and it was a joy to go back and read again. Ivan Ivanovich, How Ivan Ivanovich Quarrelled with Ivan Nikiforovich. That was a great story. As I say, I hadn't read it before, which is strange. It's set in Ukraine, so he has different cycles. He's got like the Petersburg Tales, which is a bunch of stories, including The Nose, that are set in St. Petersburg and involve themes of the civil service, bureaucracy, and there are absurd elements to them as well. So The Nose particularly, where a guy wakes up in the morning to discover that his nose is missing after someone else has just found it in a bread roll, and the nose then goes on to walk about St. Petersburg wearing a civil servant's uniform of a higher rank than the man who's lost it. It's ridiculous. The Ivan Ivanovich and Ivan Nikiforovich story is set in Ukraine, so it's part of his sort of Ukrainian cycle, or the Mirgorod cycle, set in the provincial town of Mirgorod, which I suppose would translate as peaceful town. Mir means peace or world, so I guess peace, and Gorod is town or city. So Mirgorod, peaceful town. And the two are best friends. They live together, they're neighbours, and they end up falling out over a Turkish rifle. One of them wants to trade for it and the other one says no, and one ends up calling the other a silly old goose, and he takes great offence to this, and so the quarrel kind of escalates and they end up petitioning each other, trying to sue each other in court, and it's crazy how it escalates. I enjoyed it a lot, so much so in fact that I've just had a book arrive today, which I'll show you. Wait and see this. Isn't that nice? The Collected Tales. So these ones are translated by Pivir and Volokonski, whose translations I don't generally enjoy, but this book, I mean the book itself is gorgeous, and it contains many more stories than are in Diary of a Madman. And because I just read 3 of the Petersburg Tales, I wanted to read the rest of them, which include Nevsky Prospect and The Portrait, which I'm really looking forward to read. In fact, I might read them tonight. So yeah, it was a great joy to go back to Gogol. I've enjoyed it immensely, and I'm looking forward to reading more very soon. So yeah, that's it, other than City of Dragons by Robin Hobb, which is the 4th of the Rainwild Chronicles, which itself is the 4th series of the overarching series called The Realm of the Elderlings. Right, City of Dragons gets a thumbs down from me, I'm afraid. Didn't enjoy it. Well, I enjoyed it up to a point, but the ending was just, you know. I'm a completist. I wanted to get through this series so that I could enjoy the final series, which is Fits and the Fool, and I wanted to learn how elderlings are made, who elderlings are, what they do, etc. So I feel in that sense I had to earn the knowledge, and I did. So I listened to it on Audible. No, I didn't. I listened to it on Spotify. Narrated by Saskia Butler. The narration was alright, not great, just alright. The whole series, I mean, yeah, you get the lore, but I think I could probably have read a summary to get the lore, or ask ChatGPT or something to give me a summary of the lore, and thereby avoid all of the teenaged angst and sexual relations. It's, in that sense, a romantic fantasy. It's just not my thing, you know, so... Sorry, I mean, Robin Hobb, her writing's good. I don't know. What's she doing after writing such great series up till now? I don't know, I just don't understand it. But, yeah, I've read it, I don't need to look at them ever again, and I've earned the lore, so I suppose that's something, isn't it? So that was what I read in October. A bit of a quieter month in terms of quantity, because I spent so much time with the White Guard, and that was a good thing to do. I think that's what I want to do more of as I mature into being an online presence, I guess. Being a creator in the book space. I think it will serve me well, and I think it will be helpful to an audience who want to know more about good literature. I'm not saying I'm always going to be reading classic Russian literature. It's just kind of, that's my area of expertise. But there are other books I would like to read, chief among which is the Gormenghast trilogy. So if you haven't read that and you would like to read it with me, let me know down below. Those are some of my favourite books of all time. And it would be fun, I think, to read them slowly maybe through a year. So let me know if that's something of interest to you. I have these Gogol books out just because I was taking photos of them for my Substack. That's the Overcoat that I read in first year. These little readers are fantastic, published by Blackwells, or Bristol Classical Press, but I think that's a sub-press of Blackwells. and they come with the Russian text, which has stress marks above the words to aid in reading and pronunciation. Has notes at the back, which help immensely with understanding the story and the language, and a glossary as well. So for students of Russian, these are superb. And as I say, I read this in first year. It's something I might actually go back and read again, because my Russian has really gone downhill over the years since I quit using it. This one here is Revizor, the government inspector. It's a bit longer book, so I think Chenille's probably a more obvious choice. Excuse me, the cat wants in. So you're going to hear some meowing now. That's what Willow likes to do. Like she's coming to appear on the video. Hello, Willow. Say hi to everyone. I'll pick you up so they can see how beautiful you are. There she is. Come and purr into the mic. Let everyone see you. Little Willow. Right, off you pop. Come on. The last thing I wanted to talk about was 2 DNFs, which for me is unusual. I have to move that coffee because she's going to come over again. The first one is Iron Curtain, Anne Applebaum. It's not a bad book at all. In fact, it's a fantastic book. I think I read about 100 pages of it and enjoyed what I read, but it's not really in my area of interest as such. It's about the satellite states of the Soviet Union, so Hungary, Czech Republic. I forget which ones. It doesn't cover all of them. She specialises on 3, but I forget what they are. It's probably on the blurb, isn't it? No, it's not. It's a book I might go back to because I do really like Anne Applebaum's writing. It's very well researched, etc. It's just, you know, there are other things I'm more interested in, so I made some room for them. The other one is Looking at Women, Looking at War. Victoria Amelina, which is just out, actually. It came out 2025 with a foreword by Margaret Atwood. Amelina was a journalist in Ukraine and she was killed in an explosion, a bomb explosion in a restaurant. So it's unfinished in that sense. But she was writing a war diary. It's called the War and Justice Diary. And how far did I get in that? Not even 100 pages. I am interested in it. I have read a war diary before. Jen Stout wrote one about Odessa. What's it called? Last Train to Odessa, I think it's called. Jen Stout's a journalist from Shetland. And she had gone into Ukraine, whereas this journalist is Ukrainian. She lived in Lvov and Kiev and other places, so yeah, will I go back to it? I don't know. Why did I quit on it? I don't know, I just wasn't feeling it. Is that a good enough reason? Does that make me a bad person? I don't know. Yeah, I'm feeling quite bad at having quit on it now because I am interested in that topic. And I do have other war diaries to read. I've got Invasion by Andrei Kurkov, you know, the penguin guy. I've got another one I just bought. That was another recommendation by a Substack person, the same Substack writer who recommended these two. I don't know. There are so many books, you can't read them all, can you? So I just wanted to cover 2 DNFs and say why. So there we go, that's my October anyway. I hope you had a good October. November's looking fun. I'm listening now to The Will of the Many, which is on my TBR. I spent some time this morning actually in my morning pages writing about my TBR, so if you want to see what's still to come for later in the year and what the decision is I just made to go and read a book with a Substack writer who's going to be running a read-along for The Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. I'm planning on reading that with Hayley Larson, PhD, a Substack writer, so that's a mood read, or yeah, I guess it's a mood read because it wasn't on my TBR. And I've just started going back out hiking. I've made a commitment to go hiking up the hill where I live at least twice a week. And that was my goal that I set in my local my mastermind group for this month to get up the hill at least twice. So that gives me some audiobook time. So Will of the Many, when I'm finished that, I'm thinking, ooh, I could listen to London Fields by Martin Amis. It's a book I've read before and I want to read again, and I already have the audiobook, so that would make sense. As for the rest, we'll see. If you want to know what else is on my TBR for the rest of the year, maybe I could do a separate video on that. Let me know if you would like to see that. If you'd rather read it, I've already done that. I posted it today on my Substack, so go and check out that. Thanks for watching from me and Willow. See you again. Bye.